Welcome back to the Good Vibes podcast. Today's guest is Sean Mata, founder of Covenant Gym, a disciplined, high-integrity training space built around consistency, community, and real results. What started as a tight-knit strength culture has evolved into something much bigger, a clear model for how intentional spaces can reshape what fitness looks and feels like. Sean and his wife Kelly have built Covenant with precision. From the early morning rhythms to the structure of the programming to the loyalty of the members who keep showing up. It's not about hype, it's about trust, repetition, and showing people what they're capable of when they commit. In today's episode, we'll unpack what inspired Sean to build Covenant, how the culture took shape, and why this gym became more than just a place to lift. It became a place to change. Let's get into it. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've lived across the fitness spectrum, training, coaching, even competing. What made you say, if ever I open a gym, it's got to be different? I mean, what gap did you feel called to address?
At an early age, all of the high school athletes, all that was going on. And I was never a football player. I was kind of always dove into the soccer stuff. So I dove into athletics in a totally different manner than most high school guys, but I always loved pushing myself, and whether that was on the field or whether that was, not on the field, even in some of the, off-putting ways and things that I learned, trying to just always move the needle. But what I wanted to do differently, and I just knew that it made such an impact in my life in a positive manner. I knew that physical fitness and pushing that needle not only transitioned into my physical output, but also my spirituality and my mental health more than anything. So what I wanted to really focus on in being different was more of the mental aspect of physical fitness.
Covenant structure feels intentional. The timing, the culture, the rhythms. How much of that was planned versus evolved?
None of this is planned. If I'm totally honest, none of this has been planned. We started Covenant CrossFit in 2012. I have to give all the credit to CrossFit. I think what CrossFit did for the fitness community was amazing. It gave folks who didn't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go out and build a fitness facility, a garage door space or an industrial park plaza type scenario with no AC and just loud music, into what Covenant has turned into today, which is no longer a CrossFit affiliate. We structure our workouts completely different. And I shouldn't say completely different, because we do use some of the principles that I learned from CrossFit as, constantly varied and things like that. But none of that necessarily was planned. We just had to kind of roll with the punches. One thing that I have learned in the fitness community is that there's always new data coming out, especially with social media. There's always new research. And, as you guys know, that the biohacking world has evolved tremendously. And so, as I said, none of this has really been planned. We are continually trying to learn and understand what works and what doesn't work. And really what we try to follow is the science behind things and what works.
What's something you felt you had to hold the line on even when it wasn't popular?
That's a great question, Danny. I think one thing that I continue to hold the line on is emphasizing strength training. The research, the data, it's all there, that strength training is what works. It's what combats these chronic diseases. It's what helps and increases metabolic capacity, all of these things. And I will say that we are probably more predominantly female members. And one of the questions is, hey, do I lift, when I'm doing this strength, I don't want to get bulky. And, luckily, I think, again, some of that has been debunked, and folks that are, also moving the needle and doing their own research are understanding that that is not true by any means. But, again, the strength training is always where we hold the line. I've done strength training for almost 16 years at this point, and I will still tell you that I'm the little guy in the room. I'm not some big, massive dude. And, do I think that I lift pretty heavy? Yeah, I do. But at the same time, it's really been a challenge and an obstacle. We've lost members, we've gained members because of it. But again, our focus is what works and how do we continually progress into the right direction?
Oh, what are you most proud of that someone might not even notice unless they train there?
Man, it's taken me a long time to really answer that. And my wife, Kelly, has done an amazing job of reminding me of this. But one thing that I love more than anything is the community that we're building. We just, in the 13 years that we've had the gym, we've had multiple members get married. I think we're out to two hands and counting, more than two hands and counting for folks getting married. One of my best friends, Dave Mason, who's a chiropractor, he met his wife at the gym. But no, I would solely focus and credit that I'm most proud of the community that we're building. We've built lifelong friendships. People come and people go and people come back. But when I receive a text, I actually just got one on 4th of July that just said, hey, I'm actually in Colorado right now. I got a text that said, hey, we really miss you guys. And it's not the same without you, but I just want to say thank you so much for creating lifelong friendships. I love coming to Covenant, even on a holiday weekend. So that to me is what I'm most proud of.
That's awesome. A gym can draw a crowd or it can build a culture, but rarely both. Who would you say it is that actually thrives at Covenant?
That's a tough question to answer, but what I have learned is, although people that walk in the door in the beginning, they might not always be 100% committed to the program or the platform or whatever the current cycle is that we're going through. And I think over time, the people that have been committed, right, and not making excuses, those are the ones that continually thrive. The days that one thing that I do in my own personal training is, even my wife asked me the other day on Sunday morning, she said, do you ever just like not want to go out for a run? And I think that the answer to that, Danny, is yeah, all the time. Like, I don't want to do it, but I do it because it's hard. And I also do it because I know I've never at the end of a run or the end of a workout or any of that stuff said, man, I wish I didn't do that. I always feel immediately better mentally, physically, and also spiritually. It's kind of my time to be in my own thoughts. I'm very busy. I'm a family man. I've got all of these things, but I think I see the people that thrive the most is the ones that are committed and not making excuses, right? Regardless of I slept a little late. Hey, it's just been, I had a work event or whatever it is. We're going to figure it out, whether it's I go to the later class or, hey, I couldn't make class time, but I'll get a text that said, hey, I went and ran Memorial Park today. Those are the ones that I see really thrive. And again, I want to make sure that I'm completely transparent when I'm explaining this, because the thing that I've learned about fitness the most is, yes, there are physical benefits, right? And that's great. But what I think is more empowering than anything is the mental clarity and kind of resilience that you build, right?
Yeah.
If I constantly attack these workouts and with, I don't want to do it, but I'm still doing it, that builds this resilience that you can carry off to other spectrums of your life, whether it's work or family or faith, whatever that may be. And so, again, it's that I think it starts there in that workout, and those that continue to push, we see them really grow tremendously as an individual, not just in their health and fitness.
So let's talk about the flip side then. What patterns have you seen in the people that don't click with the model?
That's one thing, Danny, that I'm not good at is taking things personally. No matter what, everything is personal to me. So that's been a real challenge. But as I said earlier, what we do see is that they might not eventually buy in and be, fully committed to the program. What I've also learned, again, in the 13 years is at some point, and we hope that they will come back, whether that's at Covenant or somewhere else. One thing that I believe, right, and what I love about the health and fitness community is, Danny, I truly believe that if you're getting out there and you are getting uncomfortable, right, whether that's in the gym or, in your job, in your workspace, whatever it is, you are sharpening the sword. And That said, I don't believe that you have to come to Covenant. I don't believe that Covenant has all the answers. I am not saying that Covenant is the end all be all. Some folks would like to go to a yoga or Pilates or more of a, kind of steel bodybuilding type facility. And look, I think that that's great. And at the end of the day, what I think is most important is that you as a consumer, or even further, you as an individual, if you understand that you need to be uncomfortable to grow, that's all I want. Again, if that comes to Covenant, if that brings you to Covenant, fantastic. If that brings you to another gym, great. What I think gets tremendously disheartening and, again, even more personal is when I just see people stop.
How do you coach somebody through that first, this is hard wall without over accommodating them?
If I'm completely transparent, most of our first time members, one thing that I say, and it's not anything special, but I tell them, I say, hey, look, because in our classes, we can have anywhere from 3 to 30 people attending that class. And what seems to be the most intimidating factor is the insecurity of what others think of you. And so the first thing that I tell people is, hey, Joey, nobody in here gives a about what you're doing, just me and just that other coach across the way. Everybody else that's working out, and what I see so much is they're all in tune to what they're doing. Never, Danny, I never go out and have a workout and go home and say, hey, Kelly, you should have seen Danny at the workout. Like, he was really struggling. He didn't do. No, that is never what it is. And so I really, even though it is this community atmosphere that we've built, what I think in turn is the first time that you can let go of that insecurity of what other people are thinking of me. The second part of that process that really is exciting and what I'm proud of, what we've built at Covenant, is those folks then start to come support you. And that is where the magic really happens, is when they start building these friendships, and then they can discuss with these friends or even amongst the community of what their real struggles are. And that is, I can't sit here and tell you, Danny, that it's me, because it's not. I believe Covenant is based on the community of what we've built, and it's the members that, help people and guide them through the tough times, and also get to celebrate with them during the amazing times. So, I think, again, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself too, when we come into a new scenario or a new atmosphere, it's always that the biggest problem and, obstacle is what's going on in here. And so, again, when we get to that point where it's like, hey, stop, nobody else cares. Nobody cares. And I mean that authentically, right? And I want to make sure that that you understand it's not that we don't care about you. It's just everybody's in their own heads. And so, and then again, following that, you have that community that goes in there and starts supporting after that.
Has anybody surprised you? I mean, somebody maybe that you didn't think would click with the model, but now they're a core part of your culture?
Oh my goodness. There's dozens, just solely Spanish speakers that have come in where we've translated. You have somebody that doesn't speak English. We actually have a member right now. She's great. My dad is Mexican and my mom is white. And, of course I don't know Spanish, but we get to have a little bit of a lingo and a little bit of an understanding. And she's been here for north of 2 years now and just loves it. And what I think is so exciting is when she comes to me and she'll show me a picture of herself dressed up, and, she has her before and afters. And I think we're constantly comparing ourselves to everybody else. We're constantly going through this thread of social media and what do I look like? And how come I don't have that? And we're constantly comparing ourselves. And so again, I go back to the last question that you had is when we can let go, at least to some extent, of this insecurity, we start really focusing on the hard work that we're putting into this, and we become proud of ourselves. And I think that's really where the needle starts ticking, and we start to move things in a positive manner, because, right, I think at the end of the day, like, we all kind of surprise ourselves. One of my greatest friends, I met him through Covenant, and he called me probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and he said, hey, I'm training to be in the SEAL teams and this is what I want to do and this is my goal. Do you have some sort of like off gym programming? Like, I just want to come in and do my own thing. And I just said, hey, bud, why don't you just come in here and just come work out with the class? He stayed until he eventually moved away. And I was actually on the phone with him this afternoon, and we've become lifelong friends. And so, it's the folks, whether they're, not English speakers or the folks that think that they have it all, those are the ones that always surprise me. So, it is interesting because it is such an intimate environment, and you do really discover who you are through some of these workouts because they're hard and they're painful, and there are days that you're tired and there's days that you feel great. That all said, you really get to expose yourself into what you can be.
Let's say someone trains at Covenant for, I don't know, 6 months, then moves across the country. What's the invisible win you hope they take with them?
One of the most important things that I've learned about Covenant, and that I'm also thankful for, is this: I don't have to carry this image of who I think I need to be. And you break down this wall of, I mean, I really don't give it. Hey, I'm Sean Mata. Nice to meet you. Right. I will tell you that on a personal level, I work for a law firm. I've been working there for 3 years. It was a huge obstacle because I had no idea what I was doing. I worked for one of my best friends in the world. And it was very self-taught. That said, I was very insecure in the beginning. And, I would go to conferences or whatever it was. And I just said, I don't know the lingo and I don't really know too much about the industry. And, all of this self-doubt just continually crept in my brain. And what I've learned over time, yeah, of course, I'm sharpening the sword by putting myself in these uncomfortable positions, trying to better understand what I'm doing at the firm. But that said, man, we're all just people. We're all just people who think we understand and we know what's going on and we are doing the best that we can do. And I think when you can be vulnerable with yourself and you can move across the country and you can just say, with no self-doubt, right? I'm not saying that it's completely gone because I don't know if it's ever really gone. And the person that has figured that out, I'd love to meet. But when you can confidently go in and just say, hey, I'm Sean Mata and I don't know, right? And I'm just trying to figure it out. That is what I hope people carry with them. And I think, again, a lot of that originates, and I almost everything that I do originates from working out. Because when I first had my children, I had no idea what to do. I didn't know what to do as a dad, right? My dad did the best he could, and I thought he did a great job. Was it, Mary Poppins Tea Party? No, it was not, right? It was challenging. But I roll with the punches and I continued to figure out, like, how do I sharpen that sword? And so, again, I think when we can sit here and be vulnerable with ourselves and just say, look, I don't know and I don't understand, and that's okay. That's what I hope people take with it.
Awesome. Sean, appreciate you. What you and Kelly have built is rare. Covenant is not just a gym, it's a mission. To everyone else listening, if you're trying to build something that lasts, Sean's model is a powerful one, rooted in structure, built on values, and tested by time. Till next time, stay strong, stay sharp, stay aligned, and keep up the good vibes. Thanks a lot, Sean.
Thanks, Danny.